The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with the sound of many voices. Representatives from 859 different species sat in their assigned seats, each one different from the others. Some breathed air, others needed special tanks filled with gas. Some had 4 arms, others had tentacles, and a few looked almost like humans but with blue skin or strange eyes. Ambassador Sarah Chun sat in the human section, her hands folded in her lap. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but today her face showed no emotion at all. Around her sat the other human representatives. There was Dr. Martinez, who had helped create new medicines that saved millions of lives. There was Captain Williams, who had led rescue missions to save other species from disasters. There was Professor Kim, whose research had helped solve energy problems across the galaxy. All of them sat quietly, waiting. The Altarian Chancellor stood at the center of the chamber. He was tall and thin, with purple skin and 4 arms. His voice was deep and carried across the huge room without any electronic help. His species was known for being very formal and following rules exactly. "We have heard all the arguments," the Chancellor said. "We have listened to both sides. Now it is time to vote." The chamber became silent. Even the usual sounds of breathing and moving stopped. Everyone knew what this vote was about. The humans had been part of the Galactic Council for 50 years. But many species had never been comfortable with them. The vote began. Each species had 1 vote, and the results appeared on the large screen above the Chancellor's head. The numbers climbed slowly. Sarah Chun watched without changing her expression. Green lights meant votes to keep humans in the council. Red lights meant votes to remove them. The red lights were winning by a lot. The Zephyrians voted red. They said humans were too quick to fight. The Velkari voted red. They said humans could not be trusted to follow orders. The Centauri voted red. They said humans were too emotional and made bad decisions because of their feelings. Only 12 species voted green. The Karathi voted green because humans had saved their homeworld from a plague. The Draconi voted green because humans had helped them win a war against machines. The Phelan voted green because humans had shared their technology freely, but 12 votes were not enough. The final count showed on the screen. 847 votes to remove humans from the council, 12 votes to let them stay. The Chancellor looked at the screen, then at Sarah Chun. "The vote is complete. By the authority of the Galactic Council, the membership of the human species is hereby revoked." Many representatives expected the humans to get angry. They expected shouting and threats. Humans were known for having strong emotions, especially when they were treated unfairly. Some species had even prepared security measures in case the humans became violent. Instead, Sarah Chun simply stood up. She was small compared to most other species in the room, but somehow, she seemed to fill the space around her. She looked at the Chancellor, then at the other representatives. "The Terran Federation acknowledges the Council's decision," she said in a calm voice. "We will comply within the standard withdrawal period." That was all. No anger, no threats. No long speech about how unfair the vote was or how the Council would regret this decision. Just a simple statement of acceptance. The Chancellor seemed surprised. He had expected something more dramatic. "The withdrawal period is 72 standard hours," he said. "All human citizens must leave Council space within that time." "Understood?" Sarah Chun said. She turned to the other human representatives. "We should begin preparations immediately." Dr. Martinez stood up. He had been working on a cure for the Wraith disease that was killing people on 3 different worlds. "What about our current projects?" he asked. "We will complete what we can in the time we have," Sarah Chun said. "Everything else will be transferred to other species or discontinued." Captain Williams had been planning a rescue mission to help some miners trapped in an asteroid field. "The Belkan miners are still trapped," he said. "They need help." "Transfer all mission data to the Korathi fleet," Sarah Chun replied. "They have the skills to complete the rescue." Professor Kim had been working with scientists from 5 different species to build a new type of power plant. "The energy project is almost finished," she said. "We are so close to a breakthrough." Give all research data to the project team, Sarah Chun said. They can finish without us. The other species in the chamber watched this exchange with growing confusion. They had voted to remove humans because they thought humans were selfish and aggressive. But now the humans were calmly making sure their work would continue. Even after they left, the Altarian Chancellor stepped forward. Ambassador Chun, the Council appreciates your cooperation. We hope that in the future, our species can maintain friendly relations even if humanity is not part of the Council. Sarah Chun looked at him for a long moment. We've always wanted to be good neighbors, she said. That will not change. Over the next 3 days, something unprecedented happened. Humans throughout Council space began leaving, but not in the way anyone expected. They did not grab what they could and run. They did not break their contracts or abandon their responsibilities. Instead, they carefully organized their departure like a complex dance. On the trade station orbiting Vega Prime, human merchant Captain Tom Harrison was selling his cargo ship to a Zephyrian buyer. The ship was worth millions of credits, but Harrison was selling it for much less than its value. Are you sure about this price? The Zephyrian asked. This ship is worth at least twice what you are asking. Harrison shrugged. I cannot take it where I am going. Better that it goes to someone who will use it well. The Zephyrian had voted to remove humans from the Council, but now he felt uncomfortable. Where will you go? He asked. Somewhere we can be ourselves without making others nervous. Harrison said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. On the research station near the Centauri system, human scientist Dr. Elena Vasquez was packing up her laboratory. She had been working on new medical treatments for 20 years. Her research assistant, a young Centauri named Thyses, watched her with obvious sadness. I do not understand why you have to leave, Thyses said. Your work here has saved so many lives. Dr. Vasquez stopped packing and looked at her assistant. My people have been told we are not welcome. We respect that decision, but you are not like the others say, Thyses insisted. You are not aggressive or dangerous. You are kind and smart. And helpful, perhaps, Dr. Vasquez said quietly. But if our presence makes others uncomfortable, then it is better that we go. She handed Thyses a data pad. This contains all my research notes. Continue the work. The galaxy needs healers more than it needs humans. Similar scenes played out across Council space. Human farmers transferred their crops to local species before. Leaving, human engineers finished building projects and then handed them over to other workers. Human doctors treated their last patients and carefully transferred medical records to other physicians. The most surprising thing was what did not happen. There were no protests. No human groups tried to stay behind illegally. No one sabotaged the facilities they were leaving behind. Every human seemed to accept the Council's decision without question. On the second day, something strange was noticed. The humans were not just leaving, they were cleaning up. Every human facility, every human building, every human workspace was left in perfect condition. In some cases, the humans were leaving things in better shape than when they arrived. At the military base on Kepler Station, human Colonel Janet Rodriguez was turning over command to a Valkyrie officer. The base had been jointly operated by several species, but the humans had been in charge of logistics and supply operations. All supply schedules have been updated, Rodriguez told the Valkyrie. The new system should be more efficient than the old one. The Valkyrie officer looked at the complex charts and schedules. This must have taken weeks to prepare, he said. We have been working on improvements for some time, Rodriguez replied. We wanted to make sure everything would run smoothly. After we left, the Valkyrie felt a strange sensation he had never experienced before. Among his people, guilt was not a common emotion, but he thought this might be what humans called shame. Colonel Rodriguez, he said slowly, my people voted to remove humans from the Council. I voted for removal myself. Rodriguez looked at him calmly. You voted according to your beliefs. That is what the Council is for. But looking at this work, at all the care you have put into making sure we succeed after you leave, I am beginning to think we may have made an error. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. We came to the stars hoping to find friends, she said. Finally, We found colleagues instead. That is not nothing. On the third day, something happened that made even the most anti-human species pause. The humans began broadcasting their final messages. These were not angry speeches or threats of revenge. Instead, they were simple thank you messages. Human. Scientists thanked their colleagues for years of cooperation. Human merchants thanked their customers for their business. Human soldiers thanked their allies for fighting beside them. The message from the human medical team on Rigel Station was typical. To our friends and colleagues, we want to thank you for allowing us to serve alongside you. We have learned much from your wisdom and your different ways of thinking. We hope that some of our ideas have been useful to you as well. We wish you health and happiness in all your future work. The message from the human trading post near the Orion Nebula was similar. To all our customers and partners, it has been an honor to do business with you. We have tried to be fair and honest in all our dealings. We hope we have succeeded. May your trades be profitable and your journey safe. Each message was different, but they all had the same tone, calm, polite, and genuinely grateful. There was no anger, no bitterness, no suggestion that the council had made a mistake. As the 72 hours came to an end, the last human ship prepared to leave council space. It was a simple courier vessel, nothing impressive or threatening. The pilot was a young woman named Lieutenant Sarah Park. Her final transmission was broadcast to every council world. This is the human vessel messenger, the last ship departing council space. We want to thank all species for the opportunity to serve alongside you these past 50 years. We have learned much and hope we have contributed something useful in return. We wish you all peace and prosperity. This is our final transmission. Farewell. The ship jumped to hyperspace and disappeared. For the first time in 50 years, there were no humans in council space. The great chamber where the vote had taken place was quiet. Many representatives had expected to feel relief, but instead they felt something else. Something that would grow stronger in the days to come. The humans had left quietly, without anger or threats. They had completed their work, honored their contracts, and departed with grace. And somehow that made their absence feel heavier than anyone had expected. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to live without the species they had never truly understood. The first week after the humans left was quiet. Most species in the Galactic Council felt a sense of relief. The chamber meetings were more orderly without human representatives asking difficult questions. Trade negotiations went more smoothly, without humans pointing out problems that others preferred to ignore. Military planning sessions were more predictable without human officers suggesting crazy ideas that somehow worked. The Altarian Chancellor was pleased with how peaceful everything seemed. He had been worried that removing humans would cause major problems, but the galaxy appeared to be running just fine without them. He mentioned this to his assistant during their morning briefing. The human departure has been remarkably smooth. He said, perhaps we worried too much about the consequences. His assistant, a younger Altarian named Vex, looked at his datapad with some concern. Sir, there are a few minor issues beginning to appear. Nothing serious yet, but some departments are reporting small problems. The Chancellor waved a hand dismissively. Minor problems are normal during any transition. They will resolve themselves. But the problems did not resolve themselves. Instead, they grew larger. The first major issue appeared in the Zephyrian mining. Operations in the Outer Rim. These mines produced rare metals that were essential for building starships and energy systems. The Zephyrians had been mining these asteroids for centuries, but they had always relied on human transport ships to carry supplies to the remote locations. Mine Supervisor Klex was reviewing the supply schedules when he realized something was wrong. The next supply run was supposed to happen in 3 days, but there was no ship assigned to the route. He called the transport office. Where is the supply ship for the Outer Rim run? He asked. The transport coordinator sounded confused. Supply ship? We do not have any ships rated for that route. What do you mean? We get supplies every 2 weeks. Those were human ships, sir. Human captains and human crews. They were the only ones willing to fly through the asteroid fields and radiation zones. Klex felt his stomach drop. The Outer Rim mines were located in some of the most dangerous space in the galaxy. The asteroid fields were thick and constantly shifting. The radiation from nearby stars was deadly to most species. The only reason the mines were profitable was because human pilots had been brave enough or crazy enough to fly the dangerous routes. "How long can the mines operate without new supplies?" Klex asked. "Maybe 2 months, sir, then we will have to shut down." The same problem was happening all over the galaxy. Human merchant ships had been taking the routes that other species considered too dangerous or too unprofitable. They had been delivering medical supplies to plague worlds, food to colonies hit by disasters, and equipment to research stations in hostile environments. Captain Thoric of the Valkyrie trade fleet discovered this when he tried to assign ships to cover the routes that humans had been flying. He called his best pilots into a meeting. "We need to take over the cargo runs that the humans were handling," he told them. "How many ships can we assign to these routes?" His pilots looked at the list of routes and began shaking their heads. The first pilot, a veteran named Brix, spoke up. "Sir, half of these routes go through pirate-controlled space. The other half go through areas with gravitational anomalies or radiation storms." "The humans were flying these routes regularly," Thorak said. "If they could do it, so can we." Another pilot, Zara, looked worried. "Captain, the humans have different tolerances for risk. What they consider acceptable danger, we consider suicide missions." Thorak studied the routes more carefully. He began to understand why human ships had been flying alone through areas where other species traveled only in large, heavily armed convoys. The humans had not been more skilled pilots, they had simply been willing to take risks that other species avoided. "What about hiring private contractors?" he suggested. "Sir, the profit margins on these routes are too small. The only reason the humans took them was because they seemed to care more about delivering supplies than making money." Within a month, dozens of remote stations and colonies were running short on essential supplies. The Galactic Council tried to organize emergency supply runs, but most species were reluctant to risk their ships and crews. On the dangerous routes that humans had been flying routinely, the second major problem appeared in the border regions. The galaxy was not a peaceful place. There were pirates, hostile alien species, and ancient automated weapons that still functioned after their creators had died out long ago. The Galactic Council maintained a military force, but it was mostly designed for large-scale warfare, not the constant small conflicts that happened along the borders. Commander Vis of the Valkyrie Border Guard was reviewing incident reports when she noticed something disturbing. Pirate attacks had increased by 300% in the past month. The Krex Hegemony, a group of savage aliens who had been quiet for years, were making raids into Council space again. Several automated defense systems had activated and were attacking any ship that came too close. "What changed?" she asked her intelligence officer. "Why are all these problems happening at once?" The intelligence officer, a thoughtful Centauri named Lorth, had been wondering the same thing. "I have been studying the patterns, Commander. All of these incidents are happening in areas that were previously patrolled by human ships." "Human ships? But they were not official military vessels." "No, Commander, but they were there. Human merchant ships, human exploration vessels, human research ships. They were always present in these regions, and they were always armed." Commander Vis looked at the star charts showing the areas where incidents were increasing. "Are you saying the humans were providing security without being asked?" "Not intentionally, I think. But human ships had a reputation for being willing to fight. Pirates avoided areas where humans were active. The Krex respected human military capability. The automated systems seemed to recognize human ships as authorized vessels. So when the humans left, all of these hostile forces began testing our defenses. They discovered that we do not have the same presence in these regions that we had before. The Council's military tried to increase patrols in the affected areas, but they quickly discovered another problem. The official military ships were expensive to operate and could not be everywhere at once. The humans had been providing security coverage simply by being present in large numbers across the galaxy. The third major problem was discovered by Dr. Thizes. the young Centauri who had worked with Dr. Vasquez at the medical research station. She was trying to continue the research on new treatments for various diseases when she realized that many of the most important discoveries had come from human scientists. She went to the medical database and began searching for research papers published in the last 50 years. What she found shocked her. Out of the 2,847 major medical breakthroughs during that time, 1,923 had human contributors. That was 67% of all advances in medicine, but it was not just the number of discoveries that was important. It was the type of discoveries. Other species tended to make gradual improvements to existing treatments. They followed established research methods and built carefully on previous work. The humans had a different approach. Human scientists took risks. They tried treatments that seemed impossible. They combined ideas from different fields in ways that other species would never consider. They tested their theories on themselves. When no one else would volunteer, Dr. Thises found a research paper about a treatment for nerve damage. The breakthrough had come when a human scientist noticed that a particular type of plant from Earth had properties similar to neural tissue, from a completely different species. No other scientist would have thought to make that connection. Another paper described a cure for a rare blood disease. The solution had been discovered when human researchers ignored the established treatment protocols and tried something that other species considered too dangerous. The most disturbing discovery was in the field of emergency medicine. Almost every major advance in treating battlefield injuries, accident victims, and disaster survivors had been developed by human doctors. They had been willing to try desperate measures when conventional treatment failed. Dr. Thises realized that without human scientists, medical research would slow down dramatically. Other species would continue making steady progress, but the revolutionary breakthroughs that saved millions of lives would become much less common. She brought her findings to the Centauri Medical Council. The response was uncomfortable silence. "What you are suggesting," said the council leader, "is that we need humans to make medical progress. I am suggesting that we have been making medical progress faster because of human contributions." Dr. Thises replied carefully. "Without them, we will still advance, but more slowly." How much more slowly? Dr. Thises had done the calculations. Based on the historical patterns, I estimate that our rate of medical advancement will decrease by approximately 60%. The economic problems were perhaps the most widespread. The Galactic Council had a complex trade system that connected thousands of worlds. Each world produced different goods and needed different supplies. The system worked because of a vast network of traders, transporters, and middlemen who moved goods from where they were produced to where they were needed. The humans had been a crucial part of this network, but not in the way most species realized. They had not controlled the major trade routes or dominated the most profitable markets. Instead, they had filled in the gaps. When a world needed emergency food supplies, human traders were usually the first to respond. When a colony needed equipment for a new project, human merchants were often the only ones willing to take the small, unprofitable contracts. When a research station needed rare materials, human prospectors were usually the ones who found them. Trade Administrator Gorth of the Merchant Guild was reviewing the monthly reports when he noticed that trade efficiency had dropped by 40% since the humans left. At first, he thought this was just a temporary adjustment, but the trend continued. "Why is everything taking so much longer?" He asked his assistant. His assistant, a detail-oriented draconi named Sisk, had been tracking the specific problems. "Sir, it appears that the humans were handling many of the smaller, less profitable trades that other species avoided. Without them, there are gaps in the supply chain." "Give me an example." "The medical station on Rigel needs a specific type of crystal for their equipment. The crystal is produced on only one world, and the order is too small for the major shipping companies to handle. Before, a human trader would have picked up the order along with other small deliveries and delivered it within a week. Now, the medical station has been waiting for 3 months." Gorth looked at the reports more carefully. The same pattern was repeated hundreds of times across the galaxy. Small orders that were not profitable enough for large companies had been routinely handled by human traders. Without them, many facilities were struggling to get the supplies they needed. What about the dangerous deliveries? Gorth asked. That is an even bigger problem, sir. The humans were taking contracts that other species considered too risky. Now, those deliveries are not happening at all. By the end of the second month, the problems were becoming impossible to ignore. The Galactic Council called an emergency session to discuss the situation. The Altarian Chancellor stood before the assembled representatives, looking much less confident than he had during the vote to remove humans. We are here to discuss the difficulties that have arisen since the human departure, he said. The Zephyrian representative spoke first. Our mining operations in the Outer Rim are failing. We cannot get supplies to our workers, and we cannot transport the minerals we extract. We are losing billions of credits. The Valkyrie representative was next. Our border regions are under constant attack. Pirates and hostile species are taking advantage of the reduced security presence. The Centauri representative looked uncomfortable. Our medical research has slowed dramatically. We are having difficulty developing new treatments without human scientists. One by one, the representatives reported similar problems. The galaxy was discovering that the humans had been contributing much more than anyone had realized. The Chancellor listened to all the reports in growing dismay. Are you telling me that the humans were essential to the functioning of our civilization? Not essential, the Zephyrian representative said carefully. But they were filling roles that we did not know needed to be filled. They were taking risks that we were not willing to take, added the Valkyrie representative. They were making connections that we did not think to make, said the Centauri representative. The Chancellor was quiet for a long moment. What are our options? We could try to contact the humans, suggested the Korathi representative. Perhaps we could negotiate some kind of limited partnership. We could try to hire human contractors, said the Draconi representative. Pay them to provide the services we need without giving them council membership. But when the council tried to find the humans, they discovered something disturbing. The humans had vanished completely. Their ships were gone, their settlements were empty, and no one knew where they had gone. The humans had left quietly, without anger or threats. But they had also left permanently, and the galaxy was beginning to understand what that meant. The council had voted to remove humans because they thought humans were dangerous and unpredictable. What they had not realized was that the galaxy needed someone willing to be dangerous and unpredictable. The humans had been taking on the jobs that other species avoided, solving the problems that others ignored, and protecting the regions that others abandoned. Now they were gone, and the galaxy was discovering that being civilized and orderly was not enough. Sometimes survival required someone willing to take risks, make sacrifices, and do the things that others would not do. The humans had been that someone, and now the galaxy had to learn how to survive without them. 3 months after the humans left, the galaxy faced its first real crisis. It began with a routine deep space scan in the Vega system, where automated probes had been monitoring empty space for decades. The probes detected something that made every species in the council panic. The harvesters were awakening. Commander Zeth of the Altarian Deep Space Command was the first to see the readings. He stared at his screen in disbelief, then called his supervisor immediately. Sir, the probes in Vega are detecting massive energy signatures. The readings match historical data for harvester activity. His supervisor, Admiral Corax, felt his blood turn cold. Are you certain? The harvesters have been dormant for over 1,000 years. The energy patterns are unmistakable, sir. Something is activating their ancient machines. The harvesters were the galaxy's oldest nightmare. They were not a living species, but rather massive machines built by a civilization that had died out long ago. The machines had one purpose: to consume entire planets and turn them into raw materials for building more machines. 1,000 years ago, the harvesters had nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy. They had consumed 47 worlds before. The combined forces of every species had managed to shut them down. The victory had been costly. Entire civilizations had been wiped out in the fighting, but the harvesters had not been destroyed. They had only been put to sleep. And now, something had awakened them. Within hours of the first detection, more signals appeared throughout the galaxy. The harvesters were not just waking up in one location. They were activating everywhere on dozens of worlds that had been thought safe. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Every species sent their best military leaders and scientists. The Great Chamber was filled with tension and fear. Chancellor Vrex of the Altarians stood at the center of the chamber, his forearms spread wide. We face the greatest threat our galaxy has known in 1,000 years. The harvesters are active again, and they are spreading quickly. The Zephyrian military commander, General Klaus, was the first to speak. How many activation sites have been detected? 17 so far, Chancellor Vrex replied. But the number is growing every hour. The Valkyrie Admiral Thyra looked at the tactical displays. What is our response plan? We will implement the same strategy that worked before, the Chancellor said. Coordinated attacks on all harvester sites simultaneously. We will use our largest battleships and most powerful weapons. The plan sounded good in theory. Every species would contribute their best warships. The fleets would be organized according to the military doctrine that had been developed over centuries. Each fleet would have clear objectives and follow proven tactics. But theory and practice were very different things. The first major battle took place in the Kepler system, where a harvester site had been detected on a dead world. The combined fleet consisted of 300 ships from 7 different species. Admiral Thera of the Valkyrie was in command. The harvester machines were exactly as the historical records described them. They were massive, dark structures that looked like a cross between a spider and a building. Each one was the size of a small city, and they moved with mechanical precision. All ships begin attack formation Alpha 7, Admiral Thera commanded. Target the primary processing centers. The fleet moved into position perfectly. The formation was textbook perfect, with each ship type positioned for maximum effectiveness. The attack began on schedule, with coordinated volleys of energy weapons, striking the harvester machines. For the first few minutes, it seemed to be working. The weapons fire was damaging the machines, and several smaller units were destroyed. But then something unexpected happened. The harvesters adapted. The machines began changing their outer armor to deflect the energy weapons. They reconfigured their defensive systems to counter the specific attack pattern the fleet was using. Within an hour, the carefully planned assault had become completely ineffective. All ships switch to attack formation Beta 4, Admiral Thera ordered. Target the secondary power nodes. The fleet repositioned and began a new attack pattern. Once again, the initial assault seemed successful. But once again, the harvesters adapted within minutes. Admiral Thera realized with growing horror that the machines were learning faster than the fleet could change tactics. Every new strategy was countered almost immediately. The harvesters were not just following programmed responses, they were actively analyzing and defeating each attack. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, we are losing ships. The harvesters are now targeting our command vessels. The battle became a disaster. The harvesters not only defended themselves, but began attacking the fleet with weapons that seemed to anticipate every defensive move. Ships that had been considered invincible were destroyed in minutes. Admiral Thera was forced to order a retreat. Out of 300 ships, only 147 made it to safety. The harvester site was not only undamaged, but had actually grown larger during the battle. Similar defeats happened across the galaxy. Every attack followed the same pattern: initial success, rapid adaptation by the harvesters, and eventual defeat for the Council forces. Chancellor Vrex called another emergency session. This time, the chamber was filled with defeated military leaders and panicked representatives. Our conventional tactics are not working, he announced. The harvesters are adapting to our strategies faster than we can implement them. General Klaus of the Zephyrians looked exhausted. We need a new approach, something they cannot predict. What kind of approach? asked the Centauri representative. I do not know, General Klaus admitted. Something got ... different. That was when Commander Theises of the Centauri Medical Corps made a disturbing discovery. She had been researching the historical records of the previous Harvester War, trying to understand how the galaxy had won before. I have been studying the battle records from the last Harvester War, she announced to the emergency session. I found something interesting. She activated a holographic display showing battle statistics from 1,000 years ago. In every major victory against the Harvesters, there was one common factor. The display showed dozens of battle reports, each highlighting the same detail. Human involvement, Chancellor Vrex said quietly. Yes, Theises confirmed. Not human leadership, but human participation. In every successful battle, human forces were present. They were not commanding the fleets, but they were there. Admiral Thera studied the data. What were they doing that was so important? They were doing things that made no sense, Theises replied. According to these records, human ships would break formation, ignore orders, and attack targets that seemed strategically unimportant. But somehow, these seemingly random actions would create opportunities for the main fleet. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Are you saying, Chancellor Vrex asked slowly, that we need humans to defeat the Harvesters? I am saying that in the past, human unpredictability was a crucial factor in victory. The Harvesters could adapt to logical, organized attacks, but they had trouble adapting to actions that seemed random and chaotic. The Velkari Admiral spoke up. But humans are not random or chaotic. They are intelligent and capable. Yes, Theises agreed. But they think differently than we do. They are willing to take risks that we consider illogical. They make connections that we do not see. And they are willing to sacrifice themselves for objectives that we might not consider important. While the council debated, the Harvesters continued to spread. They had consumed 3 entire worlds and were beginning to construct new machines on a dozen more. The galaxy was running out of time. The economic situation was also getting worse. The problems that had started in the first month after the humans left were now becoming catastrophic. The Zephyrian mining operations had shut down completely. The Velkari border regions were under constant attack. Trade routes that had operated for centuries were now too dangerous to use. Trade Administrator Gorth was reviewing the latest reports when he made a connection that chilled him. The trade routes that are failing, he said to his assistant, are they the same routes that humans used to patrol? His assistant, Sisk, checked the data. Yes, sir, almost exactly the same routes. And the mining operations that are shutting down? Those are the ones that relied on human transport ships. And the border regions under attack? Those are the areas where human ships provided informal security. Gorth realized that the human departure had not just created individual problems. It had created a cascading system failure. The humans had been connecting different parts of the galactic economy in ways that no one had understood. How long before the entire system collapses? He asked. Sisk did some calculations. At the current rate, perhaps 6 months. Maybe less if the Harvester threat disrupts more trade routes. The military situation was equally desperate. The Krex hegemony had taken advantage of the chaos to launch a major invasion. They had captured 6 council worlds and were advancing toward the core systems. Commander Viss of the Velkari Border Guard was leading the defense of the Rigel system when she realized something terrible. The Krex are using human tactics, she told her officers. What do you mean? Asked her second-in-command. They are not following their usual patterns. They are being unpredictable, hitting targets that seem unimportant, and ignoring our defensive positions. How is that possible? Commander Viss had been thinking about this. The Krex fought against human forces for decades. They learned to adapt to human tactics. Now they are using those same tactics against us. But why is that so effective? Because we never learned to fight against human tactics. We only learned to fight alongside them. The irony was painful. The galaxy had spent 50 years learning to work with humans, but they had never learned to work without them. More importantly, they had never learned to defend against the kind of creative, unpredictable thinking that humans represented. The Scion Collective, a group of telepathic species, made another disturbing discovery. They had been studying the mental patterns of the galaxy's various species when they noticed something was wrong. The galactic consciousness is becoming unstable, reported Scion Master Viren to the Council. The telepathic networks that connect our species are beginning to fail. What does that mean? Asked Chancellor Vrex. For centuries, our telepathic species have been connected through a complex mental network. This network has been crucial for communication, coordination, and shared decision-making. But now it is breaking down? Why? Scion Master Viren looked uncomfortable. Human minds were part of the network, even though they were not telepathic. Their thoughts created what we called static interference that helped stabilize the network. How could non-telepathic minds help stabilize a telepathic network? Human thoughts are more chaotic and unpredictable than ours. This chaos prevented the network from becoming too rigid or focused. Without that interference, our collective consciousness is becoming unstable. The implications were frightening. The telepathic network was used for everything from coordinating military operations to managing trade negotiations. If it failed, the galaxy would lose one of its most important communication systems. As if the situation were not bad enough, the automated defense systems that protected many worlds began malfunctioning. These systems had been built centuries ago to protect against various threats, but they had been upgraded and maintained by different species over the years. Engineer Korth of the Draconi Technical Guild was investigating one of these system failures when he made an alarming discovery. The defense systems are not malfunctioning, he reported to his supervisors. They are returning to their original programming. What does that mean? The systems were designed to recognize certain species as friendly and others as hostile. Over the years, various species have updated these recognition systems. But now the systems are reverting to their original settings. Why would that happen? Engineer Korth had spent weeks studying the problem. It appears that the update systems were maintained primarily by human technicians. The humans had a talent for understanding complex systems and making them work together. Without human maintenance, the systems are slowly forgetting the updates. How long before they stop recognizing us as friendly? Some systems have already begun treating Council ships as potential threats. If the trend continues, we could lose access to the defense networks of dozens of worlds. By the end of the third month, the galaxy was facing multiple crises simultaneously. The harvesters were spreading unchecked. The Krex invasion was gaining momentum. The economy was collapsing. The telepathic networks were failing. And the automated defense systems were becoming hostile. Chancellor Vrex stood before the Council once again, but this time his message was different. We face the possibility of complete civilization collapse, he announced. Every system we depend on is failing. The Zephyrian representative looked defeated. What can we do? We need to find the humans, the Chancellor said. We need to ask them to help us. But we do not know where they went, the Valkyrie representative pointed out. Then we must search for them, the Chancellor replied. We must search everywhere. The Council voted unanimously to begin the search for humanity. It was a decision that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. The same species that had voted to remove humans from the galaxy now desperately needed them back. But finding the humans would prove to be more difficult than anyone imagined. The galaxy was vast, and the humans had been very thorough in covering their tracks. The search began immediately, but the galaxy continued to unravel. Each day brought new disasters, new systems failures, and new threats. The Council was learning a harsh lesson. It was easier to drive away the people you needed than to get them back. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the humans were building a new life, unaware that the galaxy they had left behind was slowly dying without them. 6 months after the humans left, the galaxy was dying. The harvesters had consumed 12 worlds and were building new machines on 20 more. The Krex hegemony had captured 15 council systems and showed no signs of stopping. Trade had collapsed, borders were falling. and entire civilizations were beginning to abandon their homeworlds. The Galactic Council had authorized the largest search operation in galactic history. Every species contributed ships, sensors, and personnel to find the humans. The search was led by Admiral Corax of the Altarians, who had been given unlimited resources and authority. "We will search every system, every asteroid, every moon," he announced to his fleet commanders. "Humanity must be found." The search began with the most obvious places. The fleet headed to the Sol system, where humans had originated. But when they arrived, they found only empty space where Earth should have been. Captain Voss of the Zephyrian exploration ship Seeker was the first to scan the area. "Admiral, there is no planet here, no debris, no radiation signatures, nothing." "Admiral." Corax studied the readings in disbelief. "That is impossible. A planet cannot simply disappear." "Sir, according to our instruments, there has never been a planet in this orbit. The gravitational patterns show no evidence of a large mass ever existing here." The fleet searched the entire Sol system thoroughly. They found no trace of human colonies, no abandoned settlements, no evidence that humans had ever lived there. It was as if the entire human civilization had been erased from existence. "How is this possible?" Admiral Corax asked his science officer. "We have historical records of human worlds, human colonies, human settlements. They cannot all have vanished." Science Officer Theises, who had been studying the problem for days, had a disturbing theory. "Sir, I believe the humans planned this departure very carefully. They did not just leave, they removed every trace of their presence. But why would they do that? Perhaps they did not want to be found." The search expanded to include every system where humans had ever been known to operate. The fleet visited trading posts, research stations, and military bases where humans had worked alongside other species. In every case, they found the same thing: no evidence that humans had ever been there. At the former human research station on Rigel, Commander Brix of the Valkyrie survey team made a shocking discovery. "The station is here, and it is functional," he reported, "but all the human quarters have been cleaned." "What do you mean, cleaned?" "I mean they have been sterilized. Every surface has been treated with molecular scrubbers. There is no DNA, no fingerprints, no hair follicles, no skin cells, nothing that could be used to track human biology." The same pattern was found everywhere. Human facilities had been left in perfect working order, but all biological traces had been removed. It was as if the humans had never existed. Dr. Salin of the Centauri xenobiology team was studying the cleaned areas when she realized something else was missing. "The humans did not just remove biological traces," she reported. "They removed cultural traces as well." "What do you mean?" "Human art, human music, human literature, all of it is gone. They took everything that could tell us about their culture, their psychology, their way of thinking." The implications were chilling. The humans had not just moved to a new location, they had deliberately made themselves impossible to understand or predict. The search teams tried a different approach. They began looking for the routes that human ships might have used to leave Council space. The galaxy was vast, but faster-than-light travel required specific hyperspace corridors. If they could find the routes humans had used, they might be able to track them to their destination. Navigation specialist Kren of the Draconi Star Charts division was assigned to this task. He spent weeks analyzing hyperspace traffic patterns from the time of the human departure. "I have found something interesting," he reported to Admiral Corax. "The humans used 67 different hyperspace routes when they left. But here is the strange part: they all lead to dead ends." "What do you mean?" "Each route terminates at a point where the hyperspace corridor simply stops. There is no exit point, no destination system, no indication of where the ships went after entering hyperspace." Admiral Corax studied the charts. "Are you saying the humans disappeared while traveling through hyperspace?" "I am saying that, according to our instruments, the humans entered hyperspace but never exited. It is as if they found a way to travel through hyperspace without using normal exit points." The search teams realized they were dealing with technology they did not understand. The humans had either developed new forms of faster-than-light travel or had found ways to use existing technology in ways that other species had never imagined. The Council decided to try a different approach. They would use the galaxy's most advanced artificial intelligence systems to calculate where the humans might have gone. These AIs were capable of processing vast amounts of data and making predictions that would be impossible for organic minds. The primary AI system was called the Nexus, a massive computer network that had been built by the combined efforts of 12 different species. The Nexus had access to every database in the galaxy and could perform calculations that would take organic minds millions of years to complete. Nexus, Admiral Korek said, we need you to calculate the most likely destination for the human exodus. Use all available data about human psychology, technology, and behavior patterns. The Nexus processed the request for several hours before responding. Based on available data, I have identified 14,247 possible destinations for the human population. Can you narrow it down? Negative. Human behavior patterns are too unpredictable to allow for accurate destination prediction. The probability distribution is essentially random across all possible locations. Admiral Korex felt his hope fading. What about their technology? Can you predict where they might have gone based on their technological capabilities? Human technological development patterns suggest they may have capabilities that exceed our current understanding. I cannot predict destinations based on unknown technology. The AI search was a failure. The humans had been too unpredictable, too creative, and too technologically advanced for even the galaxy's most sophisticated computers to track. The Council tried one more approach. They would use the Psion Collective, the galaxy's most powerful telepathic minds, to search for human consciousness across the galaxy. If the humans were still alive somewhere, the Psions might be able to detect their thoughts. Psion Master Viaran led a team of the most skilled telepaths from 6 different species. They linked their minds together and began searching the galaxy for any trace of human consciousness. The search was exhausting and dangerous. The linked minds had to scan across vast distances, filtering through billions of other consciousness signatures to find the specific patterns that indicated human thought. For days, the Psions searched. They found nothing. It is as if humans never existed, Psion Master Veron reported to the Council. We can find no trace of human consciousness anywhere in the galaxy. Is it possible they are all dead? Asked Chancellor Vrex. Possible, but unlikely. Even if they were dead, we should be able to detect the psychic resonance left behind by their deaths. We find nothing. Then what does that mean? Psion Master Veron looked troubled. It means either the humans have found a way to shield their minds from telepathic detection, or they have moved so far away that they are beyond our reach. The search continued for months, but the results were always the same. The humans had vanished so completely that it was beginning to seem like they had never existed at all. Meanwhile, the galaxy continued to deteriorate. The harvesters had consumed 23 worlds and were building massive construction facilities on dozens more. Their machines were becoming more sophisticated and more aggressive. The Council's military forces were losing every battle. The economic collapse was accelerating. Without the human trade networks, entire sectors of the galaxy were running out of essential supplies. Worlds that had been prosperous for centuries were now struggling to feed their populations. The Krex hegemony had captured 31 Council systems and were advancing toward the galactic core. Their forces were using tactics that the Council could not counter, tactics that seemed to be based on human military thinking. The automated defense systems had failed on over 100 worlds. Without human maintenance, the systems were either shutting down or treating Council ships as enemies. In the midst of this chaos, the search teams made a disturbing discovery. While investigating a former human colony, they found evidence that the humans had been preparing for their departure for decades, possibly centuries. Engineer Korth of the Draconi Technical Guild was examining the infrastructure of a former human settlement when he found something that made him call his supervisors immediately. You need to see this, he said. The humans built this colony. with a complete removal system. What do you mean? Every building, every piece of equipment, every infrastructure component was designed to be quickly and completely removed. They could have packed up this entire settlement and left without a trace in a matter of days. The investigation revealed that similar preparation had been made at every human settlement. The humans had not decided to leave after the council vote. They had been ready to leave at any time. How long do you think they were planning this? Asked Admiral Corex. Engineer Korth had been studying the construction techniques. Based on the design patterns, I would estimate they began preparing for departure at least 200 years ago. Maybe longer. The implications were staggering. The humans had been living among the other species for centuries, working alongside them, fighting beside them, and helping them build a galactic civilization. But all that time they had been preparing to leave. Why? Asked Chancellor Vrex. Why would they prepare to leave if they were working so hard to be part of the galaxy? Dr. Theises of the Centauri Xenopsychology team had been studying human behavior patterns for months. I think they knew this would happen, she said. They understood that the other species would eventually reject them, but they continued to help us anyway? Yes, they continued to serve, to protect, to contribute to galactic civilization, even knowing that it would not last. The search teams also discovered evidence of another disturbing possibility. The humans had not just been preparing to leave, they had been preparing to disappear permanently. At a former human research facility, the search team found plans for what appeared to be a massive stealth project. The documents were heavily encrypted and difficult to understand, but they seemed to describe technology for hiding entire civilizations. What if they are still here? Asked Captain Voss. What if they never left the galaxy but just became invisible? It was a frightening thought. The humans might be watching the galaxy collapse from hiding, protected by technology that made them undetectable. The search operation continued, but with each passing day, it became more obvious that the humans would not be found. They had planned too carefully, hidden too thoroughly, and vanished too completely. By the end of the 6th month, Admiral Corex was forced to report to the Council that the search had failed. We have searched 14,000 systems, he announced. We have scanned every inhabited world, every asteroid belt, every nebula. We have used our best technology, our most skilled personnel, and our most powerful minds. We have found nothing. The council chamber was silent. The representatives from hundreds of species sat in stunned silence, finally understanding the full scope of what they had lost. What are our options, Chancellor Vrex? We have 3 choices, Admiral Corex replied. We can continue the search, hoping that we will eventually find them. We can try to solve our problems without them, or we can prepare for the end of galactic civilization. The Council voted to continue the search, but everyone knew it was hopeless. The humans had vanished completely, and the galaxy was learning to live with the consequences of their decision. The search would continue, but it would never succeed. The humans had made sure of that. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, humanity was building a new life, hidden from the galaxy that had rejected them. They were watching, waiting, and preparing for what would come next. The galaxy had driven them away, but it had not destroyed them. And that perhaps was the most frightening thought of all. 1 year after the humans left, the galaxy was burning. The harvesters had consumed 43 worlds and were building massive factory ships that could destroy entire solar systems in days. The Krex hegemony controlled 67 former council systems and were pushing toward the galactic core. 3 entire species had gone extinct, not from war but from the collapse of the systems that had kept them alive. The Galactic Council met in emergency session for what many believed would be the last time. The great chamber that had once housed representatives from hundreds of species now held fewer than half that number. Many worlds had been destroyed, abandoned, or cut off from the galactic community. Chancellor Vrex stood before the assembled representatives, his forearms hanging weakly at his sides. He looked like he had aged decades in the past year. The situation reports are all the same, he announced. We are losing on every front, Admiral Corex gave the military report. The harvesters have begun phase 2 of their expansion. They are no longer just consuming worlds, they are building ships capable of faster-than-light travel. Within 6 months, they will be able to spread beyond our galaxy. Trade Administrator Gorth reported on the economic situation. Galactic commerce has collapsed by 78%. Most trade routes are too dangerous to use. Entire sectors are running out of food and medical supplies. Dr. Theises reported on the research facilities. Scientific advancement has slowed to nearly zero. Without human creativity and risk-taking, we are unable to develop new solutions to our problems. The reports went on and on. Every system that had depended on human involvement was failing. The galaxy was discovering that humans had been like a crucial component in a complex machine. Once removed, everything stopped working. "What about the search for the humans?" asked the Zephyrian representative. "Any progress?" Admiral Corex shook his head. "We have searched over 30,000 systems. We have used every detection method available. The humans have vanished completely." "They must be somewhere," insisted the Valkyrie representative. "An entire species cannot just disappear, can they?" asked Chancellor Vrex. "We thought we understood humans, but they have done things we believed impossible." The Council was debating whether to continue the search when something extraordinary happened. Every communication system in the galaxy activated simultaneously. Every screen, every speaker, every holographic display in Council space began broadcasting. The same message. At first, there was only silence. Then, slowly, a human voice began to speak. To our former colleagues in the Galactic Council, the voice was calm and familiar. It belonged to Sarah Chun, the human ambassador who had accepted the Council's decision with such quiet dignity a year ago. "We hope this message finds you well. We have been monitoring the situation and wish to clarify several misconceptions about our departure." The Council chamber fell completely silent. Every representative leaned forward, desperate to hear what the humans had to say. "We did not leave in anger or spite," Sarah Chun continued. "We left because we finally understood what many of you had been telling us for decades. We do not belong in your vision of civilized space." The message continued, and the Council realized they were hearing something unprecedented. The humans were not angry, they were not bitter. They were explaining their actions with the same calm professionalism they had always shown. "You called us aggressive, but we were your guardians in the dark. You called us unpredictable, but we were the chaos that kept your ordered systems from stagnating. You called us dangerous, but we were the shield between you and the true dangers of the galaxy." As the message played, the Council began to understand the truth. The humans had not been the problem, they had been the solution. All the qualities that had made other species uncomfortable had been the very qualities that kept the galaxy functioning. "We have found a new home beyond the galactic rim," the message continued. "A place where we can embrace our nature without making you uncomfortable. We are building something new, not a civilization that seeks to integrate with others, but one that stands apart and watches over the galaxy from the shadows." The revelation hit the Council like a physical blow. The humans had not just left the galaxy, they had moved beyond it. They were now living in the vast emptiness between galaxies, in a place where no other species could survive. "We will not return to the Council," Sarah Chun said. "We will not rejoin galactic society. But we will remember our duty to protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if they no longer want our protection." The message paused, and the Council held its breath. What came next would change everything. "The harvesters will be dealt with." As if summoned by the words, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. The harvesters, who had been advancing steadily for months, had suddenly stopped. Their machines were malfunctioning. Their factory ships were shutting down. Their advance had not just slowed, it had completely halted. "The border conflicts will be resolved." More reports arrived. The Krex hegemony forces were experiencing massive equipment failures. Their ships were losing power, their weapons were jamming, and their communications were being disrupted. The invasion that had seemed unstoppable was falling apart. The galaxy will find its balance again, but it will be a balance that includes humanity as a distant guardian, not as a member of your community. The trade routes that had been too dangerous to use were suddenly safe again. Pirates were retreating, their ships experiencing mysterious technical problems. Hostile alien forces were withdrawing from Council space. The automated defense systems that had been failing were suddenly working better than ever. "We leave you with this final truth," Sarah Chun said. "We were never the monsters you feared we were. We were the monsters you needed us to be." The council representatives looked at each other in stunned silence. They had spent a year searching for the humans, never realizing that the humans had been watching them all along. "And we will continue to be those monsters quietly in the dark, where you never have to see us again." The message began to fade, but Sarah Chun had one final thing to say: farewell. The transmission ended, and the galaxy was left to absorb what it had learned. The humans had not abandoned them. They had simply moved to a place where they could protect the galaxy without being part of it. Over the following days, the truth became clear. The humans had not just been watching, they had been acting. Every crisis that had threatened the galaxy had been quietly resolved by invisible, human intervention. The harvesters were not just malfunctioning, they were being systematically shut down by someone who understood their technology better than they understood themselves. The machines that had adapted to every council tactic were helpless against human creativity and unpredictability. The Krex hegemony was not just experiencing equipment failures, they were being outmaneuvered by tactics they could not predict or counter. The humans were using the same innovative thinking that had made them seem dangerous to the council to protect the galaxy from real threats. The pirates and hostile forces were not just retreating, they were being convinced to leave by methods that other species would never have considered. The humans were negotiating, bribing, threatening, and tricking their enemies into abandoning their aggressive plans. Dr. Theises of the Centauri Medical Corps was studying the renewed stability of the galaxy when she made a disturbing discovery. "The humans are not just solving our current problems," she reported to the council. "They are solving problems we do not even know we have yet." "What do you mean?" asked Chancellor Rex. "I have been analyzing the patterns of their interventions. They are not just reactive, they are predictive. They are preventing crises before they happen." The evidence was overwhelming. Disease outbreaks were being stopped before they spread. Natural disasters were being minimized by pre-positioned relief supplies. Conflicts were being resolved before they escalated into wars. "How is this possible?" asked Admiral Karex. "They understand us better than we understand ourselves," Dr. Theises replied. "They spent centuries living among us, learning our strengths and weaknesses. They know how we think, how we react, how we fail." The council realized that the humans had become something unprecedented in galactic history. They were protectors who asked for nothing in return, guardians who worked in complete secrecy, and problem solvers who prevented crises rather than just responding to them. But the most disturbing realization was yet to come. The humans had not just learned to protect the galaxy, they had learned to do it without being seen or acknowledged. They had become the invisible force that kept civilization functioning. Engineer Korth of the Draconi Technical Guild was examining the improved performance of the automated defense systems when he discovered something that made his blood run cold. "The humans have been maintaining our infrastructure all along," he reported. "What do you mean?" "The defense systems, the communication networks, the power grids, they have all been receiving upgrades and maintenance. Not from our people, but from the humans." The investigation revealed the full scope of human involvement. While the council had been searching for them, the humans had been quietly maintaining and improving the technology that kept galactic civilization running. "They never really left," realized Chancellor Vrex. "They just became invisible." The galaxy had to adjust to a new reality. The humans were still there, still protecting, still contributing, but they were doing it as outsiders. They had become the galaxy's guardian angels, working tirelessly to keep civilization safe while remaining forever apart from it. The council tried to send messages to the humans, hoping to negotiate some kind of formal relationship. But the humans never responded. They had made their choice, and they were sticking to it. The galaxy learned to live with the knowledge that somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity watched over them. They felt the human presence in every crisis that was quietly resolved, every disaster that was mysteriously prevented, every threat that simply vanished without explanation. The humans had found a way to serve without being served, to protect without being protected, to love without being loved. They had become the perfect guardians, selfless, invisible, and absolutely dedicated to the welfare of those who had rejected them. The Galactic Council eventually resumed normal operations. But everything had changed. The representatives knew that their decisions were being watched by beings who understood them better than they understood themselves. They knew that their mistakes would be quietly corrected, their failures would be secretly prevented, and their civilization would be protected by those they had driven away. The humans had taught the galaxy the most painful lesson of all. Sometimes, the greatest love is expressed through sacrifice, and the greatest service is performed in silence. The galaxy had rejected its guardians, but the guardians had not rejected the galaxy. They had simply found a way to protect it from the shadows, asking nothing in return except the freedom to be themselves. And in the vast darkness between the stars, humanity continued its eternal watch, guarding a galaxy that would never again see their faces but would always feel their presence. They had become myths, legends, and guardian spirits all at once. The galaxy was safe, but it was also alone. The humans had given them the greatest gift possible: protection without obligation, service without expectation, and love without condition. It was exactly what the galaxy needed, and exactly what it could never ask for. The humans had left quietly, and in their quiet departure they had found the perfect way to serve the galaxy they could never abandon.